the Bible. So I hope that on your father's side you actually have Aztec descent. Right, but take this flyer here, because this deals with us being of African descent. I'm not sure, do you have any Spanish-speaking people in your family? Your father? Okay, let him see this. Oh, I got you. Okay. Well, next time you see a so-called Mexican, give him that. And if you can, share that information with them, because the so-called blacks and Hispanics together, we make up one entire nation. We make up the northern and southern kingdom of the children of Israel. Right. We just fallen from grace due to what? Us breaking the commandments. That's how and why we've been removed from our high position. Like I said, I hope and pray that on your father's side, that what? You come from the nation of, or the tribe of Issachar, and that you're not of a conquistador, because you agreed about the so-called whites. I'm not sure you check out world events or history. But everywhere they've gone, the Bible goes into this, they've raped, robbed, and murdered. They've deceived. I call it the 6 offenses of Esau. 6 of them. They rape, theft, murder, deception, oppression, and profanity. Right? These are the 6 that they're known for as far as anywhere they go. Anytime they go into a country to set up their democracy or what have you, those things are soon to follow. And you see him going down right here, so you know a leopard can't change his spots. So whenever he goes, he's going to find this thing out. Oh, mi hermano, ¿cómo está usted? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está, por favor? Okay, me too, man. Hopefully you're Issachar. Now, sir, do you speak hablo inglés? Speak both? Okay. So check it out. When I was going in with him, what I was telling him earlier was this. You still got the Issachar prophecy, right? You look on the back of the flyer. Either or. Are your fathers descendants from Cuba? Okay, boom. Oh. That's what's up. So now you go into it, right? You go into it. You're the tribe of Joseph. Now you familiar with you read the Bible at all? Or? Okay, you familiar with Jacob? And he had 12 sons. You familiar with his son Joseph, right? Well, Joseph had 2 sons, right? One was Ephraim, and the other one was Manasseh. Right? When we go into what we're being called today, because our ancestors broke the commandments of God when you go back way far, before we came into this part of the country, what the Most High had us do is what? He caused us to cease, what he said? He caused the memory of us to cease from among men. Let me read that real quick. Deuteronomy 32:26, then I want to get into Manasseh in particular. 14 and 4. That's okay, with the water. Get Deuteronomy 32:26 for the brother. Right, because this happened to all our tribes. But now a lot of us now, the way we've been brought up, we're taught to think that, don't mess with the Morenos. Boricuas over here, Morenos over there. We're taught to be at odds. And really what? We're just 2 sticks of the same nation. Right? So now, read what you have, brother.
Said 32:21, right?
26.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 26. I said, I would scatter them into corners.
So the curse the Most High said was he would scatter us into corners. That's why you look at wherever our people are at, whether it's Philly, New York, right? Havana, right? Rio de Janeiro, Mexico City. You see our people scattered into corners, blacks and Hispanics, right? Always ranking highest in the prison population, right? Always having the highest counts of different types of diseases, right? Gang violence, warfare, right? It's always on us. Always getting a tough break when we try to go to the UN for sanctions, right? Or petitions to remove sanctions. It's always an issue when it comes to our people. I will scatter you into corners, read.
I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Of them to cease from among men.
I will cause the memory of them to cease from among men. That's why we're calling ourselves stuff that's not even our name, right? Like, I'm not black. You're not Cuban. I'm not sure where the word Cuba comes from. But like you look at like Puerto Rico, that's a Spanish name. You had another language you spoke before the Spaniards even got there. You see? I know you had the Tainos in that region, the Arawaks, right? Right? Well, I try to read up on the history of my people, right? Myself included. But now, they were the ones that gave those lands or those regions Spanish names. Because that was their language. Just like my language wasn't English at first. You see? So he caused the remembrance of us to cease from among men. Even though they did it, the Most High is the one that allowed it. Because why? We're a nation that's transgressed against the commandments. So now let's get into Manasseh real quick. Go to Genesis 49 and start with Joseph. Because when you go into it, both Ephraim and Manasseh, the two sons of Joseph, it says they will be a fruitful bow. Meaning what? You will be a plentiful tribe as far as having many children, right? And being blessed in everything you put your hand to. As you're going to read, it's going to go even to the region that you're in these last times, right? As far as what the Most High would do to the tribe. Because each tribe, even though we're one nation, there's certain things specific to your tribe that aren't with mine. And certain things that are with me that aren't with him. Because he's the tribe of Levi. He's what we call a Haitian, a so-called Haitian. So different provinces deal with different tribes in particular. So now, Genesis 49, I think it's verse 22, right? Read that.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful bow.
So it says Joseph is a fruitful bow. Bow is like a branch. So it says fruitful. Read on.
Even a fruitful bow by a well.
Even a fruitful bow by a well. Meaning what? It's going to grow and be long because the well has water, which allows it to grow. Read.
Whose branches run over the wall.
Whose branches run over the wall. What that's going into is what? Your tribes mixing, not only back then, but in recent times, mixing with the other nations. Caucasians in particular. That's why you notice with a lot of the Hispanics, they tend to be lighter complexion. But not all the time. Because I've seen Cubans that are like my complexion. And dark, or your uncle. Right. Right, but what you have is, I'm sure you've seen this in the Hispanic community, in Cuba and in Puerto Rico, this obsession with this picture of Christ here. Or the Virgin Mary where she looks Caucasian. Or Christ looks Caucasian to where you have an affinity to look a certain way instead of looking or being people of color like you are before, or like you were before the conquistadors came over. You see? So it says they run over the walls going into you mixing with the different nations. In these last times dealing with the so-called whites, or the Bible calls Esau. How you doing, sir? Remember we talked 2 weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
We talked about 2 weeks ago, right? So now read on in that verse.
Gun.
You read a lot.
The archers have sorely grieved him.
Since the archers are sorely grieved, and it's going to go on a war with the different nations. Esau, when they came over to try to conquer, read.
And shot at him and hated him.
Right. Just to go into brief history, but I know what they used to do as far as in Cuba, along with Puerto Rico, they used to have the men, they used to kill the women and the children. They would have the men meet a certain quota. You got to go and find gold. If you don't get this amount of gold, after a month's time, we're going to cut your hand off. Or cut off one of your limbs. They used to have hard sanctions on the Tainos and the Arawaks in the islands. Right, when they came over. But now, like my people have done, we want to become friends with the enemy. When really we need to be friends with each other and put our heads together, you see? And you see what they're doing now with Hugo Chavez and whoever, I forget who the president of Cuba is now. He was trying to assist him as far as giving him aid to help him out. And you see how the so-called whites try to come in to block that from happening. They don't want our tribes coming together because they're the tribe of Asher down there in Colombia, in Venezuela. They're another tribe of the nation of Israel. Read on.
But his bow abode in strength.
This is bow to bow in strength. So now, even though they did that, they still won't be able to break your power. Here you go, sisters. Here you go. Sister, I'm not gonna bite you. You just read it. I know it's the week. I know it's the weekend, but school's in session right now. You're welcome. Okay, well, we could pick up the Prov and see those when you come back. What's your name, by the way? James? Okay, my name is Nabiyah. This is Yahweh Kara. If we don't see you again, because we might be breaking down soon, definitely call the number, leave a message, or just check out our website. Okay, that's the wild. Great. You're welcome, James. It's funny because James is just another version of Jacob.
I know.
So
he's one who suffers.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why I named my son Isaiah.
Okay, all right. See that? So I'm going into the prophecy. I probably should ask him some more questions. So that's the why. So now, it's important for our tribes to wake up to this truth, but at the same time, we need not to forget this as well. Drop everything. Hebrews 10:26. Hebrews 10:26. Because now we got to come together in these last days and times. You know? We got to come together in these last days because a lot of us are reading on our own, studying on our own, coming to knowledge on our own. But now we got to combine our forces together. We got to combine our wisdom and knowledge together to see what we can do. Because why? We're going to be in this hell on earth for a while unless what? We teach and put the warning out there so that Christ can come back. The true Christ. Because you got two Christs. You got the false Caucasian, so-called white Christ with blonde hair and blue eyes. He's a lie. But you have the real Christ in scriptures with that dark skin like these brothers here, with kinky hair like these brothers here, right? They look like you. That's the real Christ that we're looking forward to coming back. So you have the false Christ versus the real one. But now we got to walk in that example of the real Christ. A lot of us, we go into that and say, oh, Jesus was a black man. Yeah, okay, that's a good start. But now you got to walk in that example. It's more than just, oh, the Jews are people of color and Christ is a man of color. There's more to it than that. That's just identification first. But now, just like you guys ever read The Amazing Spider-Man, right? Uncle Ben told Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. Us being the chosen nation, so-called blacks and Hispanics, real Jews, we've been given a great power.
Right.
Our name means he or she is a prince or princess of power. That's what Israel means, Yasha Allah in the Hebrew. So with that power comes responsibility. What responsibility do we have, so-called blacks and Hispanics? The responsibility that we have is to what? Uphold the charge given unto us. What's the charge? To keep the commandments of God and His statutes. To teach the law. And to teach our children the law. Here you go. To teach the law to one another and to our children going forward. Because the commandments teach us how to live in this earth. Teach us how to deal with the creation. Teach us how to deal with the planting the crops. How to deal with the animals. Right? So that you don't have extinction of animals. Or certain fruits and vegetables you can't even find anymore because the earth is just so messed up. The soils are so depleted. Because why? According to the law, it's in the Bible, you don't let the land rest every 7 years. This is what Israel did when we were in power. We ruled according to righteousness and taught the nations to do so.
That's right.
Now Esau, the so-called white man, the wicked of the earth, they're the ones that corrupted the earth.
Right.
They corrupted the teachings of how to live in the earth. They come up with their own laws instead of following God's law.
Right.
And that's why we have all these problems today. They want to say, oh, crime's a problem with the blacks in this country. Oh, crime's a problem with the Hispanics in this country. But no, really, you're the ones that started crime.
Right.
You're the ones that are the criminal by taking this land to begin with. You're the ones that started this country and founded it, like my brother read earlier, on bloodshed and murder.
Right.
And rape.
That's right.
But now when your own colonized citizens, as you call them, do the same to survive against you, you want to call them the devil. You want to call them the evil ones.
Imagine that.
When all it is just like Malcolm said years ago, the chicken's coming home to roost. That's all it is. The judgment coming back around on those that took over this country wrongfully.
Right.
According to wickedness. But then it said they were Christians while doing it. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? What a contradiction. So now we got to expose the lie, deal with the truth no matter what. How you doing, Sister Naima? How you doing? So now, Hebrews 10:26. Go ahead and read that now because, like I was saying earlier, I was talking to the brother James, we need to come together. We need to forsake the time that we have left because why? It's 2012. You're going to blink your eyes, it's going to be 2015. Blink your eyes again, 2020, then 2030, 2050. Right? We don't want to blink and open up our eyes before we had a chance to repent, to get ourselves right. Where we could look in the mirror and be pleased with the brother and sister we see looking back at us. Because why? We clean up our sinful act and are walking according to righteousness now. We don't want to be in that position where we say, you know what? It's too late. It's too late. We don't want to be saying I'm okay and then realize we're not okay. But then it's too late to then say, you know what? Maybe I should have read that flyer. Maybe I should have opened up my Bible, but it'll be too late then. That's why we compel our brothers and sisters to come together.
Right.
That can see this truth. that can hear this truth. We compel one another to come together according to wisdom. You understand? That's why I got it. I got him already. So Hebrews 10:26. Read that for the people now.
Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26. For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sin.
That's a true verse, but the verse I wanted was 25. So now, let me deal with this as the brother read it. If we now receive the knowledge of the truth, which is what we're teaching right now, to not break the commandments, right? But you say, oh, I have grace. Yes, you do have grace. But now if you sin willfully, after receiving and understanding that today is the Sabbath day, or I'm not supposed to eat pork, right? Or I'm supposed to wash myself anytime I become unclean, however that happens. If you don't do that after receiving the knowledge of the truth, it says there are made no more sacrifice for sins. So, so-called Christians in the earth today, don't be deceived. Don't just think that, mi hermano. Hablo inglés o español. Hablo inglés o español. Yeah, this one's dealing with the blacks, but then the other one's dealing with is also in Spanish. Okay, check out the back, the black and Hispanic for the real Jew. So now, like I was saying a second ago, if you receive that knowledge to what? Not keep the to keep the Sabbath holy, to not eat pork, shrimp, lobster, or crabs, right? But if you go and do it anyway, now there remains no more sacrifice for sins. You can't just depend upon or lean upon grace. But now read verse 25.
Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together.
So the Bible says not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. Don't forsake the opportunity we had to come together, to sit down, to break bread, if you will, to exchange thoughts and ideas about what it means to be godly, what it means to come together as a nation, not only on a physical level, but on a mental and spiritual level, according to truth. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. Read.
As the manner of some is.
As the manner of some is. Some of us maybe we might just want to stay in our lane, kind of sort things out. Right? That's understandable. Right? Sometimes that's how people learn or teach themselves. They kind of go on their own and try to sort through things. I understand. I work the same way. But now, when we realize at least the basic truth, the important thing is that what? We come together now. If we come together as a nation, like we read, don't forsake the assembling of ourselves together, because why? The time is at hand. The time is short. The time is running out. More and more prophecies are coming to pass.
Right.
More earthquakes are happening in a higher frequency and closer together, and in more places than we're used to. Right? Famines. You got all types of food shortages. I mean, the crops this year were horrible over the summer and fall. Even you look at America alone, you had a lot of shortages. You check out the Farmer's Almanac this year. These are all signs of the time to get people to take a look at how they live in their life. Because why? We know that what? You can't live without the necessities, right? Food, shelter, protection, safety, a sense of community, family. But now these things are being shooken up now. These things we find to be commonplace, that we're accustomed to. Now the Lord's going to take these things away to get people to consider their ways. To get them to reconsider and say, yo, why is life so hard? Why is it that I'm working 2 and 3 times as hard as I normally would, but only bringing in a third of what I should make after working this hard?